Okay, hi, welcome back. So now we're looking at Native Americans and economic activism in terms of creating a healthy alternative identity and culture, both in solidarity with the Native Americans and among all Americans and Earthlings, world citizens who are concerned about have certain commonalities given the state of power, social power relations under the U.S. corporate business model. So now, looking a little bit at the history of it, we can look a little bit at the history of it. Anthropologist R.H. Robbins has described and analyzed the socio-historical development and corporate sculpting, right, of modern America with concepts like constructing the consumer, including the history of the first corporate brand names in the 1870s, including Ivory Soap and Quaker Oats. Some big sodas also had their beginnings at that time. Now, offhand, it's worth remembering the beginning of antitrust laws that reflected the abuse of power and the concentration of corporate industrial economic power already at that time in the 1880s, 1890s, with Teddy Roosevelt emerging as a trust buster. Concerned citizens became muckrakers, right, like journalist Ida Tarbell and Upton Sinclair, who wrote the fiction, technically fictional, The Octopus. They emerged around the 1900s, then 1910. So, we're talking about, not just talking about sort of names, but we're looking at the psychological impact, psychosocial and cultural fabric networks, meaning, symbols of, and their meaning structures in society and amongst people. And so we have another key event when J.B. Watson, a Harvard behavioral psychologist, joined J. Walter Thompson in the 1920s. Right? He had been studying how fears can be stimulated in a child. A child can be stimulated to become fearful of a rat, a white rat, when before that, the stimulus, the fear stimulus, in this case a loud clanging sound, before that loud clanging sound was associated with the white rat, the child had no fear of the white rat. So J.B. Watson, then, this pioneer in that field, joined the advertising industry. Another, I believe he was a journalist, but certainly a social critic, Vance Packard, by the 1950s, was also writing about about advertising techniques, the use of subliminal images, and the manner in which they were structured to exploit consumers and structure their purchasing habits, their consumer desires as consumers in the society, in a corporate structured society. John Kenneth Galbraith, also an economist, also wrote several books, The Affluent Society, and he was looking at a number of dynamics going on, the technocratic structure of businesses and the nonprofit organizations as a countervailing kind of power. African American Ralph Ellison, he explored identity seeking amongst alternative forms of racism. Betty Friedan, as a writer, was writing about women's interests and how they were beyond the conventional image of domestic roles. A Native American scholar also appeared named Divine Deloria, who was writing about American Indian concerns with sovereignty and to the level that he did. So then getting political, a little bit more political, and in terms of civil society organizing, there was the American Indian Movement, which was founded in Minnesota in 1968, now getting into the 1960s, with Russell Means, a prominent early member and leader. The Native Americans also had one other well-known event was the 1969 occupation of Alcatraz Island, led by a local Native America, San Francisco area, Native American university students Richard Oakes, Lanata Means, and activist John Trudell. Outside and more generally, then that was also when Ralph Nader was emerging as a young lawyer who had been working for the government, for a government official, for a politician. And his investigation into corporate profiteering as a result of neglected safety in the Chevrolet Corvair. I think it was the Chevrolet or the GM Corvair. He won an important lawsuit at that time by 1970, and he used that money then to begin to organize organizations, civil society organizations. That he became very famous for and underlie his efforts. So, okay, so that's the end of this segment. Thanks for joining, and see you at the next one. Bye.